Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast, with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Day on Wisdom of the Sages, spiritual podcast talking about spiritual philosophy of ancient India, of the yoga system, how to connect the soul with the source. And if you're new to the show, welcome. If you're listening to this on Facebook, we do this every day. You can join us live. You just got to email this lady, Miss Mara, at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and she'll send you the codes to get onto Zoom. But it's also available wherever you get podcasts and YouTube.
Pretty much. Yeah.
YouTube is good because you get to see. I think it's fun to see the person. But if you're driving, that can be distracting and you can kill people. So don't do that if you're driving. But subscribe to it, like it, follow it, and most of all, share it. Share it.
You know, we're getting a kind of a spike on YouTube lately.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe it's because of my preempting people to share it.
It could be, but the show we did, the interview we did with Ananta Govinda, that one shot up like really high. It's one of our most listened to episodes.
You know what someone said to me about Ananta Govinda? They said, you know what? I think that, sometimes Raghunath has to go out of town or play a show or do a yoga
I'll bring
workshop.
Ananta Govinda on.
Get Ananta Govinda to take my place. And I was like, yeah, it's a great idea. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second here.
That is a good idea.
He's a great fill-in.
He's a hard guy to get to commit. He's like, he's just got everything, and you come, hey, come here, and he's like, he doesn't answer the phone. Got to try to get him.
It's just like Kastuba.
What? I'm easy to get a hold of.
Are you?
Yes, very. You're the one that's hard.
Me? I'm hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, it's like the only time you give us.
My phone doesn't ring. Where I live in the sticks, there's no signal. I'll check like my voice messages, and I'll have like 20 of them that I didn't even notice happened. And then I feel guilty, and then people write me on Instagram, why don't you write back? I was like, I don't know, I don't check them.
So in other words, it's not your fault.
In other words, I'm going to blame. I like the old days. There was one way to reach a person through a phone and an answering machine on that phone. And then, that's what it
wasn't even an answering
too many
machine.
things to check.
Yeah.
I snapped you. You didn't snap back. It's like, what are you talking about?
I snapped.
You can't leave a message for me on Instagram and expect I'm going to get back. And you know what? Sometimes I'm doing stuff. And then the thing gets pushed down thousands of names.
I'm talking about.
You know what I don't like, Kastuba? Just by the way, this is not spiritual, but you know what? Here's something I don't like and I'm upset with.
What?
The whole idea of this thing with WhatsApp, like you can see, he read the message.
You don't
like. It's like, give me some personal privacy in my life. They read your message, but they're not responding to your message. I get it. I'm not a priority in your life. I get it. No, it's just like thousands of things are going on in this brain. A lot of moving parts.
If there were 3 things going on, you wouldn't answer that thing. It's not. Come on, man. Let's get real here. There's thousands of things going on. Come back, come back.
I'm sorry. Okay, but we have question day. People write in their questions. You can write them into Mara, wisdomsages101@gmail.com. We got great questions. Any announcements before we dive into these questions? Miss Mara, please.
Okay, we have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time and 12:30. And Nityananda Chandra's Shloka Memorization Group meets today at 10 a.m. And then tomorrow,
things are going on.
Yeah, and then tomorrow, Anu's offering his postural yoga class for our Patreon members at 10 a.m. And we should also mention there's no show tomorrow. We're taking the day off.
We went 24 days without a day off. That was we got back into the
taking
swing
a day off.
June was like a mess, or June into July was a mess. But the 24-day stretch, that's not bad.
Yeah.
You
okay,
brother?
I'm ready.
Back?
I'm just that like laughing could be exhausting.
Yeah.
I think you might be able to die of
That's
laughing.
another reason why you don't always answer those messages, because you're laughing so much and you just get wiped out.
All right, here's a question for both of us.
Do you want me to read it?
Okay.
Let me read it, and because I edited it a little bit. No, I didn't edit for content, but just broke it down in a way. Okay, this is an anonymous question, Raghunath. This is a good question. This is real down to earth, dealing with real stuff. Okay.
Okay.
This anonymous person writes, I have known of Krishna and Bhakti for only a few short years. Actually, the person gave kind of a long introduction about how they found the show. It was all,
which we're okay with. We like to get to know you.
It was just a little bit too much to read here. I've known of Krishna and Bhakti for only a few short years, and that's really through the podcast. My interest started slow and has ramped up progressively. The wisdom practices, and Krishna's grace have allowed me to drop harmful habits in my life, such as eating meat and watching pornography. But even more broadly, considering and practicing aspects from each style of yoga has altered the contents of my mind, releasing the majority of grasping and aversion, attachment and aversion, fear of death, and the illusion of the self/ego. This has had an incredibly positive effect on my experience and how I treat others. Excellent.
This guy's doing great.
Okay. Though the above claims are as true as I can know them to be, I name them not to boast, but rather to set up the following quandary.
Query, perhaps?
Quandary. The query is about the quandary. Although I feel a sincere release from grasping, from attachment, I still participate in habits which do not support all aspects of my yoga practice. Okay.
Yeah.
That is, I take intoxicants on a regular basis, do not always eat healthy foods, and sometimes grasp onto sleep, snoozing past my 5 o'clock alarm to as late as 6:30, say.
Oh my God.
Okay. Now I'm receiving an excuse for the continuation of these habits, and I'm struggling to understand if it is Krishna in the heart or just the material nature of the conditioned brain and body. So there's something that's kind of he's using to rationalize or to give a reason for why he is still kind of engaged in these more tamasic habits, let's say. My wife is an incredible woman, but not currently interested in spiritual life per se, and especially not in bhakti. Okay. This is something that a lot of our listeners are going to deal with, right? Like I started to get into. My spouse has no particular interest in this. This is real.
Sometimes they see it as ruining the relationship.
It's potential. Okay.
Especially if a lot of your early attachments were based on, hey, let's go to the pub, or hey, let's go watch a porn movie together, whatever.
Okay.
No, that was a horrible off-color joke, but something that doesn't work well with bhakti, Yeah,
right. When I'm performing these diverging habits, it's mostly in her association. We connect deeply and have a healthy relationship, but when it's time to quote unquote relax at the end of the day, her interests and habits take the lead. This intoxicant and television, this in the way that this plays out is basically getting intoxicated in front of the television. That's the main thing that they're
Sure.
doing. This is where the conundrum lies, because she continues. Because she continues, I feel less connected to her if I do not. Otherwise, she's relaxing, and I'm either doing a spiritual practice, splitting us up, or I'm wishing I was. Right? Either we're going our separate ways every evening, or we're not, but I'm wishing I was doing my spiritual practice instead. With the intoxicant, I can connect with her and grasp less to my devotional life. I actually want to, or would rather be engaged in bhakti in a more physical sense, around the clock. But to fulfill my family duties, I feel the need to stay connected with her as much as possible in the very small amount of time we have alone together in our busy lives. This is modern life. This is
He's
right?
in the thick of modern griha or household life.
Yeah. So please, Prabhus, help me untangle this knot. On one hand, I sense that I could easily give up the intoxicant, which would help me eat healthier and wake up earlier. But it also seems like I'd be giving into desire, grasping, and aversion. Desire and grasping for Krishna now and all of the time. Okay. So in other words, maybe that's a bad attachment, to be attached to Krishna and doing that, despite my duty in my marriage, and an aversion to family life, which just so happens to be not entirely yogic at this time. To add one more wrinkle, even when I'm engaged in these behaviors, I truly do not feel attached to them and do not forget Krishna. I'm actually still longing for him and relating my relationship and the content of the television to my spiritual life. In other words, okay, maybe I'm smoking pot and watching television, but I'm thinking about Krishna when I'm doing it still. The other unhelpful behaviors and contents of mind in my life have fallen away slowly, so I do trust that these will as well. Or do I force? Okay, let me read that again. The other unhelpful behaviors and contents of my mind in my life have fallen away slowly. So do I trust that these will as well? Or do I force the conclusion of them now, as I sense that I could? Again, I sense that the Paramatma is assuring me that they'll fall away in due time, but I also feel somewhat guilty and ashamed while continuing in them. How do I understand this conflict?
What a good question, huh?
Yeah.
I can relate to this. I can relate to this guy.
Right. You're not the intoxicant kind of guy, though, but
no, because I didn't quite understand. Did he mean TV? TV is an intoxicant, also.
No, but I think he's like doing the intoxicant while watching TV. That's
okay. I'm going to just share issues with my own life. I've raised, 5 children. My youngest is 9. Okay. But I've raised 5 children. I've lived in the city. I've lived in the country. I've lived in Los Angeles. I had a spouse that was a devotee, wasn't a devotee, was a devotee, wasn't a devotee. And so I can relate to that. I remember being in New York City with my dog, which I didn't want. I didn't want a dog. I'm not a dog person. You know that. I'm a cat person. The partner wanted a dog. The kids wanted a dog. I had 4 kids in New York City. And I'm up before everybody walking this dog in the cold. The dog, I swore that if we got, I would never walk. But sure enough, here I am walking the dog, trying to chant japa, but I can't really, because one hand's got a leash, one hand's got a bag to pick up the feces of the dog, because that's what you do in New York City if you have a dog. And I'm thinking, I thought to myself right then, how did this go so wrong? How did this?
how did I end up here?
How did I make so many bad choices that here I am walking an animal around and picking up the feces and storing in a bag and throwing that bag out and just being so contaminated, when I remember a time when I would wake up early and bathe and sit quietly for 2 hours and just chant undisturbed. And then another time in the same year, I remember okay, I've got to get to the Bhakti Center. I've got to, my partner needs time off. I got to take the little kids to the Bhakti Center. These kids should be hearing kirtan. Taking these kids to kirtan, one's, 5 and one's 3.5. And finally I made it to the Bhakti Center, packing them, getting them their warm clothes on, putting their little bag together, throwing some diapers or whatever they needed and snacks in a bag. If anyone who knows kids knows this game. Get down on the subway with the kids, get out of the subway, get up to the Bhakti Center, sit them down. One of the kids has to go to the bathroom. Okay, got to go take both kids to the bathroom, get back from there. And all I want to do is sit in this wonderful kirtan, probably not to go into his leading. And they just were climbing on me, could not sit still. I'm hungry. I have to go to the bathroom. It just never stopped. All of that I had to deal with. And all I wanted to do was sit. And I think I mentioned this once before. And I bumped into my good friend, Madan Mohan, our good friend, who's been on the show before. And I just said, all I just want is a spiritual practice. And he just said something very beautiful and sanguine. He said, maybe you got to reframe what your idea of a spiritual practice is. And I thought, ooh, that makes sense. I got 2 little kids. What am I supposed to do? Showing up for these kids, loving these kids, trying to take them to a kirtan may not work. It may not be as peaceful as you would like it. But that being responsible for these kids, working hard to support these kids, trying to add some spiritual life to their life as well as your life, just dealing with my own big fat ego, which thinks I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. It's all getting sliced away. So the author of this letter, he's getting polished. The material world prunes, chips away, and polishes something very beautiful. And by adding the regular wisdom literature, the regular bhakti to his life, he's becoming purified. And he's showing up with his partner. And you know what? Not just doing everything he wants to do, doing what she wants to do. And the only thing I would say is you gotta. It helps if you temper it. You want to sit in front of the TV with your partner, good. But intoxicants, heavy intoxicants that drag us to tamas and tamaguna and rajas gunas, that's a problem. That could be a problem because those things really suck down the consciousness. So does TV, but not. But these things are even worse. And what'll happen is, and I've seen this play out again and again, not just in not a lot of people's lives, my students' lives, but my own life, is that Krishna is real. This little blue cowherd boy that we pray to, it's a real being. Call him whatever you like. Call him God. Call him Jesus. Call him, the higher power. Call him the universe. Whatever is real and has a reciprocating actions with your desires. And if you actually want bhakti, things are going to start shifting around in your life. And you're doing time right now in the household ashram. It's an ashram because you're sort of protected. You're not out there wandering around, looking at around in sense gratification. You have duties of this world. And in just showing up for those duties, there's a purification that's happening as you go through it. You just got to sort of trim off the real tamasic ones. And then Krishna is going to work it out. How it's going to work out with your spouse, Krishna knows, but sometimes it does draw people away. Sometimes it draws people closer. Sometimes, and you never know what happens to both of your health, your happiness, your relationship. Things shift all the time. You could just fall deeply in love. You could get sick. She could get sick, God forbid. But these things happen in relationships. And then sometimes those are spiritual accelerators. I've seen people who are not spiritual at all. Then something happens and they're spiritual accelerators. You could get sick. She could get spiritual. She could get sick. She could get spiritual. Who knows? But sometimes even the more spiritual person falls away and the other person somehow digs their heels into spiritual life and then brings them back. All you have to do is show up without judgment and with a lot of love and in your heart. And you've already explained this. You almost like you have a secret lover and that Krishna is your secret lover. And you show up without any judgment, without any resentment. and you go through your duties, but you trim off those tamasic things. And I think Krishna's got a beautiful plan for you. You sound very sincere. And all those things that are manifesting in your life are real, and they get more and more real. You're just going through the griha means like your home, the griha grind right now. And that's just part of being in the world. What do you think about all that, Kostuba?
I'm going to take a bit of a more aggressive stance than you.
Okay, all right. Leave her now.
No. But although I'm largely in agreement with what you're saying. In spirit, I think we're on the same page. I just think in application, I'm going to take a bit more aggressive approach than you. I believe that you do have a duty to your wife. I believe that it is, you're right. When you're in the heart, well, first I want to say this. Well, no, let me start. I believe you're correct when you say you have a duty to your wife, and to just say, I'm into my spiritual thing now and not even thinking about her. I'm not recommending that at all. And I think you're right about that. And that's important. This relationship is important. It brings stability into both of your lives. It's a commitment that you've made to each other. It should be honored, unless for some, unless it really can't be for some reason. Now let's start here, Raghunath. I think in one sense we're victims in this. We're all kind of victims of living in a crazy, bizarro world.
Yeah.
Where, this isn't Little House on the Prairie where dad's out, like farming right outside the front door.
It is up here. It is up here. Building stone walls, splitting wood. I don't know what you're doing today.
And you have time together. You spend the day together. You have breakfast together. You have lunch together. You have dinner together. And then you go to church together. It's right. Like we're just not in that world. We're in a world where we run off early in the morning and we come back at the end of the day and we're tired. Because of the work, because of the commute. A lot of times we're kind of drained even spiritually. We're just kind of annoyed maybe, and and we get into habits like sitting in front of the TV and getting high.
Yeah.
I think that so that being said, it's a challenge. Definitely life's a challenge, and I think that this cocktail of getting high in front of the TV, I think it's a really destructive one. Like,
did he say he's getting high? Did he say that?
Yes. He's talking about an intoxicant. What do you think he's talking about?
I don't know.
Her interest in habits, like, take this lead. This intoxicant and television.
Okay.
Right. And he said he was taking intoxicants. He wasn't talking about, I take intoxicants on a regular basis.
Okay.
I don't eat healthy food. So they're getting high, watching television, and eating junk food, You sound
like your guru. You're getting high.
What?
Okay, go.
And so my point is that's not from a moral point of view, not from, oh, that's sinful. But what I'm saying is the valuable opportunity of life is slipping through your fingers, and you get habituated in that habit, and that real valuable time that you have. Even, you're talking about your duty in your relationship with your wife, and you have to spend time with her. I agree 100%, but this isn't the valuable way to spend the time, right? This isn't how you're going to really and this is a thing, because I think we don't have enough. I think two people can kind of hit it off and fall in love and decide to get married, and because we haven't been raised asking serious questions about life and pondering the great thinkers in life, we've been raised with garbage in our heads. We've been raised sitting in front of the TV, and so husband and wife may not even sit down and say, "What are we doing together? What is the real purpose of our bond? Is it just to be partners in wasting time, or do we have a mission in life? Is there something that we want to do with this life? Is there something that we want to make of this life?" And I get it that it could be even really feel really awkward and surreal to kind of start talking that way if you've never talked that way before, if you've been married and been intimate and for so long, to say, hey, what are we doing with our life here? Like, what is this all about? When we die, what do we want written on that that epitaph, on our gravestone. And don't we want it to be more than we went to work, we earned money, we came home, we watched television, got high, and so it was mentioned that that she's not she's an incredible woman, but not currently interested in spiritual life, and particularly not in bhakti. But what is she interested in? What is it good in her that she could respond to as an alternative? Sometimes, sometimes in the whole masculine feminine thing, it's kind of like the masculine role to provide opportunities, provide options, and I would encourage you to get busy on that level, try to do it in a way that's not
seems like not preaching to them.
Well, it doesn't have to be preaching really, but it's just like, hey, I'm just seeing we're kind of caught in a rut here, and I know. I get it, we need to relax. But both you and I know that our life could be more meaningful if we didn't take this chunk of time and use it in this way. What could we do? What's important to us? What are we working towards? At the end of this life, what do we want to look back and say, this is how we spent this life and it was valuable? I think it's worth speaking to her about that, not at all in like a confrontational way, but hopefully like in an inspirational way. I want to do more with my life. I want to do it with you. I'm going to read a commentary. This is from Srila Prabhupada's commentary to the Bhagavad-gita, chapter 12, text 11. And it's an interesting, really interesting. I think there's a lot here, Raghunath, that a lot of devotees skip right over.
Let me hear.
Okay, and in the context is that Krishna just kind of gave like a gradation of ways that you can engage with him. Kind of like he's like saying, if you can't come to this rung on the ladder,
try this.
Then try one notch down. Oh, you can't do that? Try one notch down. So he goes to like thinking of him with love in your heart at every moment, that your mind is spontaneously there. I can't do that. Okay, then practice, bhakti. You can't do that, then practice like karma yoga, and give the results, work in consciousness of me. When I'm working, I can't think of you. Okay, then work and give the fruits up to me. Well, I can't even do that. Then work it. And then this is text 11. He says, if, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all the results of your work and try to be self-situated. Okay, so he's saying, even if you can't give to me, think of me and give to me, at least live to give, right? At least live to give. And then this is what Prabhupada says here. You ready?
Yeah.
He says, it may be that one is unable to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments, right? Look, my family's like totally not into this, it makes it okay. If one attaches themselves directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
You're digging right into it. Right?
Yep.
For one who has such a problem, it is advised that they sacrifice the accumulated result of their activities to some good cause. Some good cause. He's not even saying like a directly bhakti related cause. Such procedures are described in Vedic rules, right? The Vedas talk about this, be selfless, be giving. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for full moon day, and there is special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Okay, those are more Vedic things, but what are our modern interpretations of that, right? He says, thus one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. When you're giving selflessly, you're becoming more able to understand truth, right? It's when you just want things for yourself, your attachments begin to cloud your truth perception. But when you start to become selfless, you're opening yourself up to deeper knowledge. Thus, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness, like your incredible wife, gives charity to some hospital or to some other social institution, they give up the hard-earned results of their activities. That is also recommended here, because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify their mind gradually. And in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of their actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad-gita 1846, we find it stated, Yata pravritir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if they do not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, they will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method. Okay, so I think that's really significant. What it's saying is you're on that level where you're like, I want to give to Krishna, I want to sacrifice for Krishna. I want to think of Krishna. And your wife's not there, but both of you should know that you have better ways to spend your precious human time. Those few free hours you have in the day that they could be, and maybe it's not reading Bhagavad-gita together, maybe it's reading Siddhartha together, or maybe it's just finding some way, something higher, something not so tamasic, something that doesn't drag you down and just waste your time. I think it's worth it to take that bold step and to have that conversation, which may seem really awkward or something like, what can we do more with our life? What can we do more with this time that we have together? I love you. I want to spend my time with you, but I think we could be don't you think we could be doing something more valuable with our life? Because the hours are just slipping away.
Let's learn shlokas.
Yeah, but so I'm saying maybe that's not where she's at.
I get it. Here's my fear, Kostuba, but I get this, especially with here's my fear, and I've seen this happen a lot. And by the way, I really appreciate what you're saying. Let's add some depth to a relationship that was, was happy, but it was a little mundane. I've seen people get into bhakti. Their partner is not into bhakti, and out of their Rajaguna, which is like excitement, their romance, their love with Krishna, they just walk away from their family. And you're not recommending that. You're recommending the opposite. But I'm saying sometimes you can get so frustrated. Okay, she doesn't want to read Siddhartha with me. She doesn't want to go for a walk in the evening. She doesn't want to cut out those intoxicants, whatever it is. I think there's a purification process in just showing up with your family, period. And as you dive into Krishna will work out those details, but all those things, it's a slow cook. And I'm not saying you're not saying that, but I'm saying we have to be careful of our initial, I love Krishna, and she's not God conscious. I'm over this. This is what I've seen happen again and again.
Yeah, I'm not recommending.
And then people in that passion, they get into Krishna, and then they sort of they find their middle, and they've abandoned their family. And it works against them. Yeah.
So I'm suggesting something that would strengthen those family bonds.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm not disagreeing with you, actually. I'm saying, watch out for this sinkhole. It happens.
Sure. No question. And, like Jiva she's mentioning, what about one day a week? What if we just agreed that one day a week, we're not going to sit in front of, just like take a step forward.
Regulate the senses. I like that.
And that's why I say, as the husband, it can be your role to get creative here and provide options until she finds an option that resonates with her. We could do this, we could do that, we could do something else. I have a feeling that she may just, it may just be a spark that she just was wishing would be dropped into her life of what I don't think anybody's just happy with their life when they're just sitting in front of the television getting high. It's just, I can't think of something better to do. I'm too tired and I'm just too exhausted to, I don't know. Get creative, bring forward options and see how they resonate with her. And my guess is that she'll be grateful for that. If it's done in the right, again, not in a judgmental mood, not in a pushy way, but in an inspirational way, she may feel like this is what I need in a husband. This is
Mhm.
what, this is what I need in a partner. That's someone to, this is, and she may catch on, and she may be pulling you forward before you know it,
Mm. Okay, that was good. I think we
All right.
hit that from every angle.
Try to. Okay, good
All right.
question. All right.
Great question, actually. And it's
Yeah.
a very common one that comes up. This next one is from Adrian from email.
Pronouncing it correctly.
It's for both of us. Adrian?
Well, I don't know.
Audrey?
Remember, he wrote to us around, he said, if this is the same Adrian, and remember he wrote and said, like, everybody pronounces it like Rocky, like Adrian, but it's it's a male name.
Adrian.
Yeah, something like that.
People switch up their name on us.
Yeah.
It's Caroline. Good morning. I listen to the podcast. Good morning. I listen every day to this podcast.
All right.
We call you an other because we don't know you. We don't know you, but you're out there listening, and that excites us. I listen to this podcast every day and have listened to every episode. But
well done.
They should get, a video
prize.
game, give you little stars or something.
100 episodes.
You should get a badge for that. I know the Bhagavad-gita is discussed every day with some mentions of the Gita, so I'm hoping these questions can be answered.
Okay.
Why was the Bhagavad-gita separated from the Mahabharata? Is it to highlight Krishna's song? Also, Krishna and Arjuna grew up together, so why would Krishna's cosmic form startle Arjuna?
Oh.
Wouldn't we have been exposed to his power by then? Thank you. I look forward to your response. Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Why is the Gita a whole separate book? It's part of a bigger book. Why take that out? And come on, Arjuna, Krishna's magical. Why are you so shocked in chapter 11 when he shows his universal form, where he shows that I am everything? And it's a little intense and overwhelming. You want to hit that?
Yeah, get it started. So the Bhagavad-gita is 700 verses that fall within the Mahabharata, which is like 100,000 verses. And so it's a very small part of a very large work. Yeah. It's not one chapter. It's 18 chapters, right? But it's it's
one, what is it? A parva?
Well, it's even part of another parva too, but in any case, it fits together, and that's clear, right? So these 18 chapters have been separated, and of all the literature, there's so much of it, right, Raghunath? Like the four Vedas, the Upanishads, all the Puranas, Mahabharata. It's massive, and then what to speak of all the literature that stems from that comes from that. Centuries being handed down, but out of all of them, there is one, the Bhagavad-gita kind of stands above them all in terms of its popularity, in terms of how often it's who's reading and who has read it, how much it's applied in life and alive in people's life. There's no book that comes even close to Bhagavad-gita stemming from that whole tradition.
Yep.
So it's unique. Now, if we're to look at it within the context of the Mahabharata, you're getting this storyline. You read Mahabharata, you fall in love with Arjuna, you fall in love with Yudhishthira, you fall in love with Draupadi, you fall in love with the Pandavas, you fall in love with Kunti and Vidura and all these characters, and they're being put through so much. And the worst thing, it all came to a point when Draupadi was treated so badly, right? When she was, by the evil cousin Duryodhana, basically
this archetype of lust and greed and
envy,
unfulfilled desires and domination and control. Yeah,
and so he treated, more or less, without going into the whole story, practically he and his brother tried to sexually assault Draupadi in front of everyone. It was insane.
He's the guy you love to hate, Duryodhana.
Yeah, and then he banishes the Pandavas to spend 13 years in exile. But before they leave, having witnessed what they just witnessed, that not only, beyond what they just did to Draupadi, they just took over the government, unfairly.
Yeah, it was a
horrible,
coup of
horrible
sorts.
Man. It was a coup. It was and of course, what they did to Draupadi just made it entirely heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, just the worst moments of their lives. the 5 Pandavas all witnessed, and then they were banished to the forest, but they each took vows before they left, right? All 5 of them. And each one of those vows, it's funny because all the vows about who they're going to kill when they come back.
Yeah, they're sort of like serious vows. It's only 8:47 in the morning. I don't know if you get into their vows to murder other people right now, but
well, I don't know
if you like, we can.
murder.
I'll talk about Bhima's vow.
But I always joke that, I would always talk about this in different yoga teacher trainings and stuff. And before the Me Too movement, I really had to be anytime I'd bring this up, people are like, but isn't it wrong to kill? And, is that really yogic? And what about ahimsa? And after the Me Too movement, it was like, yes, take them down, wipe them out, kill them.
Revenge!
Yeah. It was like, yes, someone's got to deal with horrible men that do horrible things. And within that culture,
maybe this was the first Me Too movement.
Well, it was considered entirely dharmic, their vows. Okay. And so Arjuna, he also took such vows, and then he had to go off for 13 years waiting for the moment to carry out those vows. There's going to be a fight.
What was Arjuna's vow?
I forget who he said he was going to kill.
Oh yeah. All right, let me think about this.
Yeah.
When I say think, I mean Google.
Nityananda Chandra. I can get to work on that. Let me think. All right. But in any case, it was 13 years of waiting for this moment to satisfy Draupadi, who was not satisfied with these. She was like, why aren't you carrying out these vows now? Right? Look what they just did. These men are horrible, and they just did it to me. And you're saying, oh, we'll see you in 13 years. I don't get it. Why aren't you dealing with this now? Yudhishthira was like, we gave our word. We'll come back in 13 years. He had that patience, and, to him, his being truthful was the highest principle. Draupadi was like, I'm not satisfied with that. Are you a warrior? Are you some kind of, book reading Poindexter Brahmana or something like that? I'm expecting you to do something about this. And so 13 years later, Arjuna's on the battlefield. And that's where the Bhagavad-gita starts. It's in one sense, if you were watching like a film of this, like some kind of saga, in the cinema, this is where like all the music would be getting like, dun, 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 it's like this is the moment. This is the moment that we've been waiting for a long time. Is now they're on the battlefield. So the Bhagavad-gita is placed right, if you take this 100,000 verse epic like no other that exists in the world, right? And you come right to the crucial, most intense moment, the Bhagavad-gita is sitting right there, right? Just as they're about to enter that battle.
Yeah.
And what we get there is Arjuna plays the role of us, in a sense, of people struggling in this world, people that have important duties that they're meant to carry out, right? People that have worldly responsibilities and worldly emotions and struggling in this world, struggling with fear, struggling with depression, struggling with difficult circumstances. And Krishna comes forward and gives the most thorough summary of all the Vedic and Upanishadic teachings and takes them even further by clarifying the teachings of bhakti in this book. So you don't have to go and read all the Upanishads. You don't have to go and read all the Vedas. You don't even have to read the whole Mahabharata to get the message. It's condensed in 700 questions, questions and answers there,
It's quite amazing.
It's such a perfect presentation. So it's natural it's not that anybody, it's natural to separate that from the rest of it, publish it separately, study it separately, because it's a condensed, complete message in itself. And it's one that's just so relevant and so thorough and so well done that it's stood the test of time. And there are other Gitas out there. There are other, sections that are studied separately and published separately and so on. But again, Bhagavad-gita is not head and shoulders doesn't even do it justice. It's way beyond them, because it is just such a relevant, perfect composition and summary of the Vedic teachings.
It is if you do read the Mahabharata, it puts everything in perspective, because if you were to jump right into the Bhagavad-gita, like I did when I was new to all this, the whole first chapter was completely confusing because of the names, unfamiliar names, and what is about to go on. I know in Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita, they have a little section called Setting the Scene, which is a really good read to read, and it just explains what's going on. But the Mahabharata makes you fall in love with Arjuna.
Yeah.
Makes you, every little boy wants to be Arjuna when they grow up. And you fall in love with Draupadi because she's such a dynamic spiritual princess. And Krishna is such a interesting, rascally, funny, wise, fearless
Powerful,
character
beautiful,
that you're by the time you get
sweet.
to the Gita, which, by the way, it's chapters 23 through 40 of book 6 of the Mahabharata. It's called the Bhishma Parva. But by the time you get to that section, you're like, Arjuna is going through hell? Oh my God. I want to know what are his questions. And Krishna can help him. And you're eager to hear this conversation. So it does have a really perfect spot within the Mahabharata. But because that is like the essence of all teachings, as Kastuba was saying, it can be taken out and studied and commented on by the great masters forever.
Yeah.
It's been extracted forever, and people just like teased this, explained it deeper and deeper, and it's become like a book that never gets old.
Yeah,
it travels with you through your life.
For instance, when Yudhishthira is answering the questions of the Yaksha.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, that's another section that you could take out and study separately, but all the questions of life aren't answered there the way they are in the Bhagavad-gita. It's the Bhagavad-gita is that companion throughout your life. It's just perfectly composed that way. So yeah. Oh, and so we, of course, Nityananda Chandra shared on the chat board that of course Arjuna's vow was that he would kill Karna.
Acha. Oh yeah, that's right. And I think it was Sakuni would be killed by Sahadev. I think that was one.
I will sever the hand that rolled the dice from his body. Right?
Who was that?
Yeah. Shakuni's hand, right? He said, I swear to you when I return, the hand that rolled the dice, I'll sever that hand from his body and I'll kill him.
Ugh.
Yeah. Those are good vows.
We won't get into gory vows.
Let's
talk about good vows. I vow not to eat gluten. I vow not to eat gluten today. How about that vow?
No, these are much better vows. I'll sever the hand that rolled the dice from its body.
I'll sever the tongue that eats gluten today.
And then the next question had to do with the universal form, right? Why was
Krishna so? Why was Arjuna so freaked about the universal form? Let's face it.
Why don't we describe what that is a bit?
Universal form is a Krishna in the 11th chapter. Krishna manifests. Oh, you think I'm your friend here? Let me just share something with you. Boom, and he turns into everything of the universe. Everything you could ever imagine is now standing right in front of Arjuna, meaning all the demigods, all the demons, all the higher beings, all the planets. He even sees himself speaking to Krishna. He's seeing everything, this universal form. He also showed it to Mother Yashoda. When Mother Yashoda looked in Krishna's mouth, she saw that. He also showed this universal form to Duryodhana when Duryodhana tried to capture Krishna and arrest Krishna. He showed his universal form. So it's imagine if you were to see everything in the universe just flash before your eyes, it would create some type of fear in you. So Arjuna is kept in this state of illusion his whole life, where he's naturally magnetically attracted to Krishna. Why? Because Krishna's Krishna. He's all attractive. But also because that Krishna relates to Arjuna like a friend, and Krishna will relate to you in different ways that you have a proclivity to relate to God. And that's the very beautiful thing about understanding Krishna consciousness. There's nuanced ways to fall in love with God, and Krishna and Arjuna was a friend. So Krishna keeps him in the spiritual illusion, so they have a friendship. And then finally he has to break it down to Arjuna, hey, many lives I've had and you've had, but I can remember them all. You can't. And, in the 4th chapter, he starts explaining how all this stuff actually came from him. I first taught this to Manu. Manu taught it to Ikshvaku, the first human king. Then this went on, went through the entire dynasty. And Arjuna's like, wait a second, who are you? So slowly in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna is starting to explain his actual position. And so in the 11th chapter, it's a little shocking. So yeah, Krishna again and again puts his great devotees into this higher type of illusion, not the illusion that we have, like I'm this body and I'm attracted to this, or I'm of this nation, but these spiritual illusions so he can relate to them on a very, very sweet, loving way that's very almost human in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Krishna was Arjuna's friend. Arjuna didn't see Krishna as God. He saw him as his friend. He saw him as a beautiful, sweet-hearted, loving, kind of super badass friend, that like would go out and fight with him, and would also just be like, they were just the dearest of friends. And in the beginning of the Bhagavad-gita, it's only when Arjuna is put under such duress that he turns to Krishna in a different mood, right? He says, okay, we've always been friends. I want to be your disciple now. I want to relate to you in a different way. That's a different rasa, a different, an entirely different mood. And it mentioned that Krishna smiles slightly when that happens, because it's just like, oh, okay, you're my disciple now. It's like, this is different, and then Krishna begins to reveal who he is to Arjuna. And then Arjuna says, I accept it. Everyone knows you're super special, and I get it. And as a matter of fact, you're not the only one that says this, but Narada says this, and Devala says this. He goes down the list of all the different great people that also say this about Krishna. Even if he had heard people saying it about Krishna, still in his mind and heart, Krishna was his friend, And so, but at a certain point, in this duress, he turns him as a guru, and then Krishna begins to explain more of who he is. And then Arjuna says, well, show me that. Show me this. And so in text 6 of chapter 11, Krishna says to Arjuna, O best of the Bharatas, Arjuna, see here the different manifestations of the Adityas, the Vasus, the Rudras, these Ashwini Kumars, and all other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen before. So although a universal form was shown to Duryodhana and so on, nobody had ever seen what Arjuna was about to see. In text 7, he says, O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. The universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see, and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place. Everything beautiful, everything horrible, everything all at once. It was a vision that was just like incomprehensible. And if, it's kind of like when after Arjuna sees this, he's like, I've made a mistake. I've treated you like a friend. Please forgive me. Right? For how I've just treated you without the reverence that is proper for you, right? So Krishna always wanted Arjuna as a friend, not as a worshiper. And so this was it was really never shown to anyone. And it was shocking. It was like, it was even shocking is not the right word. It was just almost too much to bear, this vision, to process, and he said, okay, take it down, like I can't handle it. So it was something very unique. It wasn't something that Krishna was just kind of busting out all the time. This was a very rare thing. And he said, text 8, because you cannot see me with your present eyes, therefore I give you divine eyes, behold my mystic opulence. So he actually had to intentionally give Arjuna the ability to see this form. Okay.
That's it. That's a show. Yeah. You know what I've noticed, Kastuba? Because we queue up the music and we just take it from YouTube. We end the show with the Mayapuris. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Yeah. It's got 7.8 million views. Is that amazing?
Jai Shri Krishna.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Did I
probably
say
up
fish
there
or
in
the
several
Mayaporis?
different ways too, so it's going to be more than that. But why you're saying that we're responsible for that?
No, I'm not saying we're responsible at all.
Right.
Maybe we got something to do with it, but I mean,
We definitely have something to do with it. We
yeah,
do
we
it every
definitely
day.
have something to do. But no, it's a great song. I'm just giving a shout out to the Mayaporis, who are
Oh, they're
like our
great.
friends and great friends. By the way, Bali and Dunya, Goravani was going to do our chant camp at Super Soul this year. He can't do it, but Bali from the Mayaporis and Dunya, who is our regular guest
His wife.
educator, who's his wife and a great kirtan leader himself, they're doing chant camp with me at Super Soul Farm. If you want to check that out, go to my link tree. You can hit that, Mara. You can hit that go button.
Crank it up.
Hit it up, Mara. Thanks everybody for joining us. Yeah, if you want to check out what's going on at the farm, me and Kostuba are going to post our dates for our Wisdom of the Sages finale retreat at the farm this year.
Okay. We're going
And
to
me
talk
and Lori
about that.
Pag have a retreat. And G to G and the BRG retreat.
G to G and the
Super Soul Farm.
BRG.
G to G and the BRG. It's all available on my link tree on my Instagram page, Raghunath at Raghunath Yogi. Or go to my website, www.raghunath.yoga.
Hey.
Sign up for my mailing list. And also sign up for the Wisdom of the Sages mailing list at wisdomofthesages.com. It's got our events up there, including our retreat in January at the Govardhan Eco Village. Very cool stuff. And then we're taking a group to Mayapur for a 7-day retreat after the Flower Festival. Interested in that? Hit us up right to... Anyway, you'll see. It's all on the website. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
It will be on
Yes,
the website.
Kostuba, what's up?
I was saying on Monday, you know what happens on Monday?
Monday. What?
We go to hell.
Ooh, join us Monday. There's no class tomorrow, but Monday, we're going to hell. You want to see what hell's like? We're going to have the bot. We're going to tell you all about it. Been there, done that. Sunday, we built stone walls, and Monday, we go to hell. Hey, some of us have experienced hell on earth. Hell on earth. It's not like hell is some mysterious place. But these hells are pretty serious. Good news is they're temporary, like every other hell out there.